Have you ever thought about on how much you really need to spend on your new gaming PC? If that's the case, this is going to be the right video for you because I will explain on how much money you really need to spend on your next gaming PC. And the answer is that it really depends. That's why I'm going to break 5 different steps for you to find the right gaming desktop for you, whether it's a Prebuilt PC or a PC build. Also, I'm going to discuss if you should wait or not because of the new GPUs coming soon. So if you're interested in buying a new gaming PC, I recommend you watching this whole video because I will discuss some important topics that you need to bear in mind if you're looking for the perfect PC for you. Without further ado, let's start with this one. So the first and most important step in my opinion is to identify your needs. And what I mean by this is that you have to ask to yourself, is it for gaming, streaming, content creation, or just everything? If it's just for gaming, then the GPU is going to be the most important part, and you want to make that component the main priority for your PC, and you want a CPU that's actually good enough not to bottleneck the GPU. On top of that, if you're going to buy a gaming PC, then 16 gigs of RAM is going to be more than enough. Then if it's for streaming, 32 gigs of RAM is recommended. However, you can get away with 16 gigs of RAM depending on how many tabs you want to have opened while you stream. Also, if you're working with a second or a third monitor. But if you want to feel safer while you're streaming, 32 gigs is recommended. However, it will not give you any improvement over the FPS of your game, but it will improve in many other things. And last but not least, content creation. If you're just for content creation, then you want to prioritize the CPU instead of the GPU. And just like you want to have a CPU that's enough not to bottleneck the GPU for gaming, this is the other way around. You want to have a GPU that's good enough not to bottleneck the CPU for content creation. Also, 32 gigs of RAM is recommended for content creation and more storage is recommended. Now, if you want the whole package, you want gaming, streaming, and content creation, then you want a great GPU but also a great CPU that can support gaming really well, but it's also really good for content creation. With that being said, let's go to step number 2, which is, do you want to build it, get it pre-built already, or customize it and have a brand to build it for you? My personal preference is to build it by yourself. This way you learn a lot about computers and the performance of PC builds are going to be better than pre-built PCs at the same price. And the main reason is because of course brands need to make some profit out of these PCs, so they have to build this whole PC for you, and it's understandable that they will charge an extra to build it and pay their employees, and on top of that they have to generate money to keep the brand alive. But pre-built PCs are great for people of course who don't want to build it by themselves. Maybe you don't have the time to build it by yourself, or maybe you're just not into it. Whatever the reason may be, it's valid, so don't worry about it. A pre-built PC will still have a great performance, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive. I have a whole video talking about the best pre-built PCs of the month of August, so if you want to see that, click the video in the top right of the screen. I do recommend you watching that if you're interested in buying a pre-built PC. And then you have the custom PCs where you pick the components and they build it for you. Let's say for example CyberPower or iBuyPower PCs. Both brands have this option, but I do not recommend you custom builds because it's going to be more expensive than pre-built PCs, and on top of this you have to have knowledge to build the right PC for you, which is basically what this video is about, giving you knowledge about computers overall. But trust me, you don't want to spend that much more money on a custom build, and it will even take longer to ship to your house because remember that they have to assemble all of these components, so you won't have a super fast shipping option like you would have on a pre-built PC. The third step is to ask to yourself what resolution you're going to play at, because you don't want to buy a super high-end computer that can run 4K gaming smoothly for just a 1080p monitor. So if you have a 1080p monitor and you want to play at 1080p, you're not thinking of upgrading the monitor anytime soon, then I recommend you spending $1,000 max on a PC build or $1,100 max on a pre-built PC. Remember that I'm talking about gaming computers, so you may want to add $200 max for extra spending, let's say for RGB, or if you want to make the PC even better for content creation, so you add RAM, storage, or even change the CPU, so you want to add $200 max to this $1,000 value on the PC build. Then the max for 1440p, $1,300 for a build, and $1,600 for a pre-built PC. Once again, if you want a better PC for content creation, then the max would be $200 more expensive. And then for a max 4K PC build will be $1,800, and the max for a 4K pre-built PC will be $2,300. Now, Of course, you can go with higher end computers, like let's say the Prism 2 that I always recommend from Skytech. This one is $4,000 with the i9 12900K and the RTX 3090 Ti. However, for most people, the max amount of money that you want to spend is no more than $1,800 on a 4K PC build. But if you have $4,000, you want a gaming PC that will last for a long time. But on top of that, you get basically the best PC that you can get right now on the market. DDR5 memory, 32 gigs of RAM, a 3690 motherboard, a 360 all-in-one liquid cooler, great airflow, great upgradeability, then it's worth the buy. But if you want to be realistic, for most people, $1,800 for a 4K gaming experience will be more than enough, and $2,300 for a Prebuilt PC will be enough as well. In fact, the 45L, it's $1,800 and you get the RTX 3080 and the i7 12700K. You really don't need more than that, and I have a whole video talking about that PC with benchmarks as well. So if you want to see that, click the video in the top right of the screen. You will have both the 45L review and the best Prebuilt PCs of the month video. The fourth step is to ask to yourself which games are you going to play, because let's say you want to play FPS games such as Valorant, CSGO and Fortnite at 1080p, then you don't want to spend more than $800. But if you want to play games like Flight Simulator even at 1080p ultra settings, then you want to go for $1,000 gaming desktop or even $1,100. So ask to yourself and be real with the answer. Which games do you want to play? Which one is your favorite game? And also the resolution that you use the most. Because like I just said, for a 1080p high refresh rate monitor, you want to play, let's say, Fortnite Pro settings, then $800 is all that you're going to need. You really don't need a gaming PC that's more expensive than that for that type of games. And the fifth and last step, we have another question, and that is, do you want your PC to be upgradable, or you prefer that money to be located into more performance, or maybe just save it? If we talk about a PC build and you want a PC build that's more upgradable, you will need a case with good airflow and enough space for future components, and you also want a capable power supply that will allow you to upgrade the GPU in the future to a more powerful one. And if we talk about Prebuilt PCs, we have OEM Prebuilt PCs like the HP Omen Victus 15L, which is great for performance right now. It's all that you're going to need for 1080p gaming. But if you want something that's more upgradable, you want to look for a system integrator, which is going to cost you more money. So ask yourself that question, and if you follow the 5 steps that I mentioned in this video, you should have the answer on how much you want to spend for your gaming PC. If you got lost, don't worry, I will leave all of these steps down below in the description, as well with a bunch of gaming PCs that I recommend you buying for different budgets. And before finishing, I want to do just a fast recap about what we saw and give you an example with this. So let's say I want a gaming PC because my main focus is going to be on gaming, not streaming, not content creation, just gaming. And then I'm also willing to build it by myself, learn about computers. I won't get a Prebuilt PC, and on top of that, I get to save some money. Then I decide that I want to play at 1080p. I don't want to go for a 1440p or a 4K monitor, so the max that I should spend on this gaming desktop is $1,000. But then I ask to myself, which games am I going to play? And the answer is esports titles, but I also want to play games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5, high settings without any issues, at least 60 FPS on average. And I also want my PC to be upgradable. Then the price that I'm looking for, it's around $880, where I can get the RX 6600 for the GPU, a terabyte of SSD, because I will need to have a storage for heavy games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5. Then for the CPU, I will pick something like the Ryzen 5 5600 with a nice RGB CPU cooler. Then for the case, I will pick something like the Fractal Design Pop Mini Air Micro ATX case. This one has great airflow, beautiful RGB, and then last but not least, I will pick a 750 watt 80 plus volt power supply, which is a totally overkill for this PC build. But like I said before, I'm looking for something that's upgradable over time, and in the near future, let's say I want to upgrade the graphics card to the RX 6700 XT, then it's not going to be any issue because the power supply will be more than enough for that type of build. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, leave a like and subscribe, but most importantly, hit the bell button so you get notified when I upload this type of content. And if you have any questions or you got lost, let me know in the comment section. I will try to help you out as soon as possible. Let me know your budget and all of your needs for a gaming PC, and I will help you out. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.